I'm Paul Brown, a psychotherapist, mental performance coach, and also a current minor hockey coach. Today on the Inner Scoreboard, I'm talking about confidence. Before we get started, take a second to think about a recent moment in your life where confidence wasn't there for you. Not your best game, not your highlight reel, a moment when something felt off. Maybe you hesitated, maybe you overcomplicated something simple. Maybe you started second guessing decisions that you normally make instinctively. And maybe the most frustrating part, you knew you were capable of better. But in that moment, it just wasn't there. Now, think about this. What did you do next? Did you try to reset mentally, pump yourself up, tell yourself to just be confident? Maybe you tried to focus harder. Maybe you tried to avoid making a mistake. Maybe you started managing your performance instead of just performing. Because that's what most athletes are taught to do. But for a lot of athletes, that's actually where things start to unravel. Let's get started. So what is confidence anyway? When we're talking about athletics, confidence is a proactive and forward-facing belief in your abilities, skills, and judgment. So what does that mean? Well, it's basically a feeling or a projection of what you believe will happen. Most athletes grow up believing that confidence is required to perform well. And that's true to a certain extent, but there's also a belief that confidence comes first and performance follows. So when confidence drops, the instinct is we got to get it back. But here's the problem. Confidence isn't stable enough to build your performance on. Confidence on its own cannot be the foundation of your performance. It's fluid, it fluctuates, it goes up, it goes down, it's negatively influenced by way too many things, like by pressure, by expectations, and it's often focused on the outcomes. So if your performance depends on confidence, your performance also becomes fluid and it fluctuates. It becomes fragile and unstable. So it's like, a building, if you're going to build a structure, it has to have a solid foundation. Because if it doesn't, it's not going to be able to handle the adversity of weather. And confidence isn't stable enough to be that foundation. So here's where a lot of people miss the mark when talking about confidence training. They say things, they simplify it by, think positive, believe in yourself. And most confidence advice is built around the idea that confidence is something you should be able to access on demand. But the truth of the matter is that confident people don't think about being confident. They just are confident. It's like most happy people don't think about being happy. They just are happy. Now, if we look at the flip side of that, you have someone who's struggling with depression or is very unhappy. Yep, guaranteed, they're going to be really focused on the fact that they feel so shitty and it's going to perpetuate itself. So when our confidence gets rattled, you become astutely aware that you are lacking confidence and your performance is not what you want it to be. And the more you try to force that confidence, the more aware you become that it's just not there. It's like shouting at an upset child to calm down. And how often does that work? Never. So the harder you try to force it, the less it works. So now you've created a secondary problem that the child is even more worked up because you've gotten upset with them. And now they're also getting in trouble for being upset. So they're getting in trouble for having an emotion. And the third problem is you're likely emotionally dysregulated too. So it's bad all the way around. So now you're not only dealing with the performance pressures, you're also dealing with the pressure of trying to feel confident. Or more to the point, the awareness that you're not feeling confident at all. And that's a losing equation because the shift isn't on more confidence. You're actually focused on being less insecure or less uncertain. Another approach people use is to minimize the lack of confidence. They say things like, you should be more confident or you shouldn't lack confidence because you're such a good skater, hitter, pitcher, receiver, runner, whatever the case may be. And in that situation, the person is already feeling less than, and now you've just invalidated how they feel. So if we look again at that person who's dealing with depression, and you say, you shouldn't be depressed, you have so much going for you. And although that may be true, in that moment, all they can focus on is how shitty they feel. And the comment about you shouldn't be depressed, now they understand that not only am I depressed, but I'm also misunderstood. And that just exacerbates these feelings of isolation and loneliness, and it perpetuates the cycle. So when people are told to just be confident, they're being asked to control something that in the moment feels out of control. So what's actually happening in our brain when our confidence drops, most athletes assume something is wrong. And that's when, the inner critic, or the shitty committee, as I like to call it, takes over. So they start filling your head with all kinds of negative self-talk that reinforces why you're not performing well. And often those comments are about who you are as a person. But what's actually happening in the brain is much more predictable. So under pressure, your brain isn't asking, am I confident? It's shifting priorities. It's not necessarily focused on performance in that moment. The first priority is always safety. And in those moments of questioning yourself, your brain is focused on keeping you safe. And depending on the activity, it likely isn't physical safety, it's likely psychological safety. It's focused on avoiding mistakes, avoiding failure, avoiding embarrassment. It's saying, can I trust myself in this moment? And if the answer feels uncertain, you don't get confidence, you get hesitation, you get tension, you get overthinking, you get poor performance. So in that moment, your internal systems are not trying to help you perform. They're trying to protect you. Confidence didn't disappear. It's being overridden by something much more powerful. And that's your brain's need to keep you safe. And that is something deeper and more solid and more stable. So if we think of an example of kind of losing confidence, I had a player once that I worked with who had an incredible slap shot in practice, and were encouraged to use that in games, but they wouldn't use it until one game, and then they pinched off the blue line. The puck was set up perfectly. They wound up, went to take their slap shot, and they completely whiffed on that puck. And it was a little bit like a Charlie Brown kick in the football moment. Feet came up in the air, they landed flat in their back. And the really unfortunate part about this is it happened right in front of the other team's bench. So like other teams do, they got right onto this player and started making comments to them about what had happened. So this player, even would continue in practice to use their slap shot, and we kept saying to them, you should try this in a game, keep going. Great, it's a great slap shot. But because of that moment of embarrassment, they wouldn't use that shot in a game because they didn't want to repeat that same incident. And they focused just on that one execution that went poorly, and that really impacted their confidence. Now, fast forwarding, they kept trying, and they actually did roll out that slap shot one more time in the season. And it happened to be an incredible shot that went, top shelf on the far side. It was a very difficult shot to make, and they ended up scoring on it. So that situation did have a happy ending, but in the moment, it took them a long time to kind of shake that initial embarrassment. So confidence isn't something you create directly. It's something that is developed over time. It shows up as a result of a solid foundation. So even that player, their ability to try and execute that shot again, it came from all the reps in the gym or on the ice in practice, repeating it over and over again before they decided to try it again in a game. So confidence is not exclusively an input, it's also an output. It's a reflection. It's a byproduct of past performances that feeds future performance. It's a signal that at some level you believe you can rely on yourself. But when people treat it like only an input, something they need before they act, they get stuck waiting waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel good, waiting to feel confident. And high level performance does not wait for your feelings. So, what sits underneath confidence? If it's not the foundation, there has to be something else. Well, the word confidence comes from the Latin word confidere, which means to trust fully or to believe. So, for me, the foundation of confidence is trust. It's a belief that I can trust my training, trust my preparation, trust my skills, trust my ability to execute, trust my ability to execute in high stress situations, and trust in my ability to handle mistakes. Trust is about reliability. So when I'm in a trusting relationship, there is reliability there. So I can rely on that other person, whether it's their actions. Sometimes I can rely on the predictability of their emotions, but there is reliability in that relationship. And much like in relationships, trust doesn't just happen. It's developed over time. It's the accumulated evidence that is built through your experiences, how you prepare, how you respond, how you handle difficult moments. It says, I've been here before, I can handle this. And when you make mistakes, trust says, yeah, it needs some work, but you're getting close, or you're getting closer. With superficial confidence, you're constantly checking in. Do I feel ready? Do I feel good? What if I don't? I feel good, so I play good. If I don't feel well, I don't play well. And it's all based on emotion. And I can tell you, feeling good does not equal playing well. I played in a band years ago, and I remember we were doing a live show, and there was someone in the band who had incredible confidence. And they decided in the middle of the performance to try and play a different harmony than what we had rehearsed. And it sounded awful. So even though they had the confidence, they felt good, it didn't mean that they played well. So you still need to put in the work to prepare. It's not just a feeling. But when you do put in that work, trust says to you, I know what to do. I'm prepared. And I'll do it while I'm also taking into consideration how I feel. So using information collected and combining it with emotional input. With trust, you stop questioning yourself. You execute because you know you've prepared. You know you've put in the reps, and you know you can respond under pressure and handle mistakes. You're aware of how you feel and make adjustments to that based on your experience. So when we talk about trust, recently Toronto Raptors were in a playoff series with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and in game 6 of that game, they went into overtime. And the game-winning shot came from RJ Barrett with 1.2 seconds left in overtime. After the game, his exact words were, I'm willing to live and die on me taking that shot. And when you have that confidence, good things will happen. So then one of the reporters asked him, where does that confidence come from? And he said, do the work every day. And Scotty Barnes was interviewed right after that. And they were talking about before passing the ball. RJ said to him, pass him the ball and to trust him. So the trust also goes with your teammates, and that will help to build that confidence, and also putting in the work. It's about putting in the repetitions. So how do we build trust into confidence? Well, if confidence is a feeling, feelings happen in the now. So we have to focus some attention on the now with our strategies. And we also have to build habits to reinforce that trust. We have to build habits to create repetition so it becomes predictable, and then I know, and it's reliable, and then I can trust in it. Taking a strengths-based approach. So shift the focus onto what you're doing well. So instead of, I didn't make that shot, or I didn't execute that pass, well, maybe you focus on a few of the things that you did do well. Well, the pass was inaccurate and it was a hard pass or it was a hard shot. Focusing on the positives will go a long way. Some people will say, fake it till you make it. Just pretend that you believe you're doing that thing. The dilemma with that is if you're faking it, then within yourself, you don't believe it. And if you don't believe it, you're not going to trust in that. So again, we go back to the Latin word, it was to trust fully and to believe. So I need to believe in what's happening in order to trust it. So you could shift that to be it until you believe it. Or Charlie Smith, who's another mental performance coach, he says, do it until you become it. And one way to think about this is, depression begets depression. So if I feel depressed, then I start acting depressed, and which fuels more depression. And if I'm trying to gain more confidence, maybe I start acting more confident so that I start feeling more confident, and then it starts to reinforce more confidence. Or if I'm feeling I need trust in my execution on that shot, I do that shot so that I can feel like I'm performing that shot on a regular basis, and then I develop more trust in that shot. We talked earlier about, the shitty committee and the inner critic, and the inner critic will really come down hard on you, and it will make a lot of negative comments about your performance and about you as a person. And we give a high percentage of airtime to the shitty committee. Shift that to your inner champion or your inner advocate, someone who is telling you the positive things about yourself. And, in that moment, you're coaching yourself. So put it into the third person, instead of an affirmation statement that says, I can do this shot or I have a hard shot. Think about someone you trust. There's that word again, right? Bring that person into you that says, Paul, you can do this shot. Paul, you can win that race. Paul, you can throw that ball right into the strike zone. So you're saying it in the third person as if one of your coaches are saying it to you in hopes that there's going to be less resistance to that. And it's reinforcing the positives. So give your inner champion or your inner advocate more airtime and start to kind of turn down the volume on the shitty committee. Create confidence conditioning statements. So this can be your affirmation statement saying, an example would be, I trust in my preparation and I perform with a relaxed mind. So I'm talking about the things that I've done well, which is my preparation, and I trust in that. And I'm also projecting what kind of mind I'm going to have when I'm executing, right? When we're playing at our best, we want to play loose, and we need to play with a relaxed headspace. If we're tense and not, and again, lacking in confidence and focusing on the wrong things, we're not going to perform well. So I trust in my preparation and perform with a relaxed mind. And another skill that you can use is to score the day. So at the end of the day, write down some of the things that you did well. Again, giving the positivities airtime. So I can say that, oh, I missed that shot. Oh, we lost that game. Or I can say, I worked really hard today. I was the first one into the corner to pick up that puck. I ran that ball down into the end zone and, got the interception. Whatever the skill is. And it doesn't even have to be sports related. It could be that I made my bed this morning. So that's a positive thing that you've done. So turn the volume up on the positives and turn the volume down on the negatives. So we've talked a lot about the successes, but what about mistakes? Mistakes are going to happen. It's unavoidable. And it's what we do after mistakes that makes the big difference. So some athletes are going to recover quickly and others are going to spiral. So some of the things that can kind of happen during, those spirals is I've made the mistake and I'm coming to the sidelines and then the coach is yelling at me. So again, they're reinforcing that error. And now we've got the upset child with the parent yelling at them. It's not going to make the situation better. The shitty committee kicks into high gear with a lot of the you are statements. You're a terrible athlete. I can't believe you missed that. It's a lot of blame statements and a lot of things that start to attack your identity and who you are as a person and your self-worth. All that stuff starts to get challenged if you let it. So this is where the inner champion or the inner advocate needs to take over. Saying things to yourself like, yeah, you made a mistake, so own the mistake. That's okay. We make mistakes. We need to own it. And we need to learn from that mistake and how we move forward. And that's when we create change. So it's, saying things to yourself, you've got this. Yeah, you made a mistake, but you've got this, right? You're getting close. It's good effort. You can keep doing it. Keep trying, right? And what we want to do is that mistake needs to be followed up by resetting quickly if we can. So go out and do another rep. Try it again. So then we get to, we go back to talking about failure, right? So if I wasn't successful, I went out and at least I tried it again. And I'm pushing to grow and I'm pushing to learn. I'm having that growth mindset from that mistake. I'm staying engaged and I'm trying to execute over and over again. When we look at the word fail, we can use that as an acronym for forged again in learning. Forged again in losing, if you want. Because in every loss, in every mistake, there is a lesson. There is something that we can learn from that. So for coaches, here are some things to consider if your athlete makes mistakes during a game. So first of all, reflect on your emotions and your tone. So if you're a coach that's constantly yelling and kind of emotionally dysregulated during games, you're really happy when the game's going well and you're kind of losing your mind when the game's not going well, then I would actually challenge you to maybe talk to another coach or someone on how to manage your emotions in a game. Because as a coach, you're supposed to be coaching the game and not focused on the emotions, right? You're focused on the plays that are happening and how to adjust systems. So being aware of your own emotions are going to help you to perform better as a coach and help you to manage your players when they make mistakes. So remember to coach the person first and then the player. So give when that player comes off, give them a moment to kind of come down emotionally from whatever that emotional high is before you talk to them. They know they made the mistake. They don't need to be berated when they come off, right? Give them a moment to kind of come down emotionally to reset. And then ask them, what did you see? How did you make that decision? I'm curious because it looked this way from over here. And they might have a very valid reason for why they made that decision. And you might be able to say, okay, what can you do differently next time? So what you're doing in that moment is you're reinforcing that you're going to give them an opportunity in the future. And it also gives them an opportunity to kind of shift out of that emotional mind and go into some more logical thinking and to problem solve for how they're going to do things differently next time. And then the next step is get them back in the game, to give them another opportunity. Because we want to reinforce that who they are as a player is not tied to one play only. If you're an athlete who feels low in confidence right now, here's a few tips for you. So stop chasing the feelings and stop trying to control your feelings. Feelings just happen. We can't control when they come to us. They're going to happen. But ask yourself, what's driving the lack of confidence in the moment? Is it your shitty committee? Is it that inner voice? So try to find out what's behind it. Then focus on the behaviors. So as saying, going from the emotions to the behavioral change. These are the things that you have done. These are the things that you're doing well. Simplify what you're looking at. Look at the things that you're executing and stop trying to create perfection or focusing on the outcome. Focus on the process. Build evidence to support that trust. Well, I was at practice all this week, so it's a joke sometimes when we're talking about some players. We'll say, well, they had good attendance. And that actually is a strength. That's something to focus on. I went to all the practices. I went to all the games. So that's evidence that you're there. I worked hard in those practices. I can see that my shot is getting better. I can feel it when it leaves my stick. When I hit the ball, I'm hitting the ball more accurately. At practice, I got 10 hits. So building evidence to support that you are capable of doing the thing. And remember that trust is earned gradually. It doesn't just flick on and off like a switch. So the next time you feel confidence isn't there, don't treat it like a problem. Don't try to force it. Pay attention to what's underneath it. Ask yourself, have I built enough evidence to trust how I'll respond here? If the answer is no, that's not a failure. That gives you a sense of direction. Confidence isn't something you switch on. It's something that grows from habits. When you repeatedly show yourself, you can handle difficult situations. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you found this episode interesting, be sure to share it with a coach, an athlete, or a parent that could use a reminder. Connect with me on Instagram and YouTube at Paul Brown Coaching, and you can also reach me through my website, paulbrowncoaching.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, progress, not perfection.